The Jougan is the most anticipated dojutsu in the Boruto series, and it is fair to say that everybody wants to see Boruto use the Jougan in the time skip. One of the biggest things that everybody has been waiting for when it came to the time skip is Boruto awakening the Jougan in the manga and Boruto reawakening it when it came to the anime. And this is why in today's video we'll be discussing a theory that deals with his origins and why exactly Boruto will unlock the Jougan. How is Boruto so unique, leading to him having such a powerful eye, an eye that we have seen an Otsutsuki god have? So I stumbled upon this theory. This theory is not mine, and I will link this theory in the description for this video. But while scrolling on TikTok, instead of editing or planning another video, I stumbled on this theory, which described Boruto's role with the Jougan, why he has the Jougan, and where exactly the Jougan came from. And it all starts with Samurai 8 and Kijimoto's work concerning it, as although we know that Kijimoto is not the one writing the Boruto series chapter by chapter, he did write out the main events before we even reached the time skip. All the main events of the stories have already been laid out. However, Ikimoto is the one who is writing our way towards those main points, so there is still a big role that Kijimoto plays in the story. So the theory begins with this premise. Samurai 8, another manga by Kijimoto, inspired a lot of the plot that we see in Boruto. Kijimoto did end up writing Samurai 8 when he took that break and was not the one supervising the Boruto manga. We know that Kijimoto came back around the end of Baryon Mo Naruto vs Ishiki, and it was then that he took over when it came to making sure the script were correct. But in Samurai 8, we have this divine character known as Fudo Mayo, a righteous higher dimensional being who created the world. From this, we can already see how he parallels Shibai Otsutsuki in the Boruto universe. We see in some of the extra information that is revealed in the volumes that Shibai Otsutsuki is named to be the person who created the world using omnipotence. Now, continuing with this theory, we have another divine being. His name is Kala, who on the other hand doesn't like the world that Fudo made, and he wants to dethrone Fudo by destroying the current world and then creating one that he deems to be perfect. So essentially we have two divine beings, one named Kala and one named Fudo. The person who wrote this theory believes that this will become Kawaki, as he wants to save the person he loves the most, which is Naruto, from all these various enemies that are essentially encapped in this world that Shibai has created. So the only solution to Kawaki is to create a world where Naruto doesn't have to worry about his safety. I want to add here and interject a bit. This whole idea of Kawaki wanting to create this perfect world is definitely an idea that Kawaki may end up having, as he is seeing that it's simply not just the Otsutsukis. Before the time skip, he said that he wanted to take care of all of the Otsutsukis and then he would free Naruto, where Naruto would be the one to pass judgment upon him. But now, due to the new emergence of some other threats that are not necessarily Otsutsukis, but this time as divine trees, he has added them on the list. If other threats are revealed that are not necessarily Otsutsuki, it could ultimately lead Kawaki not to just view this blind hatred of his towards the Otsutsukis, but towards all creatures that end up harming others. And thus he will deem that it's not just the Otsutsuki that shouldn't be allowed to live in this world, it's this world itself that creates such beings like the Otsutsuki, the Senju, and all these various people that are impeding on Naruto's ability to live a happy and safe life, and thus he will decide to destroy this world and rebuild it in a perfect manner. Now, continuing with the theory, he believes that the process for that to happen is to devour planet after planet across space, starting with his own. He must continue evolving until he becomes a unique existence, just as Shibai Otsutsuki did. So this is quite interesting because out of all the people who have been influenced by the Otsukis the most, when it comes to the karma, we see Boruto, we see Code, and we see Kawaki. These three people have been influenced by the Otsukis, leading to them having various takes. But out of all three of them, we have Kawaki, who has the most logical and the most grounded take on the Otsukis, seeing them as definitely evil. However, although they are evil, their way towards power is definitely one that can be used and exploited, and if necessary, he will do so, as he did when he regained karma. We have Code, who absolutely believes that the Otsukis are only a positive, and we have Boruto, who sees them as nothing but a negative, causing him to not even want to use the karma at all. And with Kawaki's take, if it is necessary, even if it would turn him into a monster, and he would have to become and act like the person who he hates, which is Ishiki Otsutsuki, who would go around planet after planet, eating chakra fruits and basically destroying life, he would do so even if it would turn him into that monster, as he told Amato in one of these recent chapters. So it is definitely possible that he sees it as an option where the only path towards securing a perfect world is for him to get so strong where he can take care of those threats. And for an Otsutsuki who Kawaki is an Otsutsuki. We see that all the time with how the Shinjus are now referring to Kawaki as Kawaki Uzumaki or Kawaki's other last name, but they refer to him as Kawaki Otsutsuki, just like Boruto is referred to as Boruto Otsutsuki. So he will go down that identity of an Otsutsuki and use their method of gaining power to end up defeating them. As Kawaki says, he is an Otsutsuki that kills other Otsutsukis. The theory continues by saying Kawaki promised Amato that he would revive his daughter by implanting karma in her after killing the Senju, Code, and Boruto. Since that is a difficult task, Amato will have to implant Shibai cells in him to awaken his shinjutsu. Now this is very interesting, as at the end of the day, Amato is going to have to get rid of Kawaki's limiters if he even wants to allow Kawaki to be able to live in time for him to defeat the Senju. So seeing that, Amato will be forced to ultimately give Kawaki some of Shibai Otsutsuki's DNA. And we have already seen with other characters that are not Otsutsukis that they develop some of these strange powers. One of these powers was omnipotence, and it's seen that for Ada to be able to master that ability, she has to be an Otsutsuki. So imagine the type of power that Kawaki would gain by having Shibai cells, on top of the fact that he is already an Otsutsuki. This to me tells me that unlike those other people that we see here, Kawaki may obtain his shinjutsu right after obtaining these Shibai cells, and doesn't necessarily have to go through a life crisis event like we've seen with Kashin Koji or other characters where they finally end up awakening their shinjutsu. But the whole fact of Amato doing this would be for him to agree and go with Kawaki's plan, and that is for him to wait until all those threats are defeated before he actually gets his limiters removed. And to make sure that Kawaki is strong enough to defeat those threats, he will give Kawaki some of Shibai Otsutsuki cells to make sure that Kawaki can take care of the Senju, can take care of Boruto, can take care of Code, so that he returns safe and sound to end up allowing Amato to see his daughter once again. Continuing on the theory, he says that in the meantime, Kawaki will change his plan and aim to create a world where Amato's daughter, Naruto, and everyone else are alive and no enemy exists. This is why his official nickname is the Apostle of Destruction. And I believe that this take is rather interesting, due to the fact that Ikimoto did say in an interview that although we've seen a lot of character growth from Boruto, and it seems like Kawaki had none, the time skip will focus a lot on Kawaki's own personal development. We have already seen the glorious transformation of our King Boruto, but now it's time to see that of Kawaki. And Kawaki is going to definitely develop in the few chapters and arcs to come. So for him to realize that it is not simply the Otsukis, but it is the various different threats that this world ends up creating, will turn Kawaki's simple frustration and simple hatred for the Otsukis to not ponder on the Otsukis alone, but all those said threats that end up impeding others' abilities to live this happy and safe life. and that's where Kawaki will end up taking that nickname of the Apostle of Destruction and deeming that he doesn't have to just destroy the Otsukis, but destroy every threat that ends up harming life itself. And this is where he would deem that it would be perfect for him to create an alternate world, a world where Amado's daughter, Naruto, and everybody else can live with no enemy that exists. This is the world that Kawaki would want to create. And if the dialogue is tough surrounding that, we could get something interesting like an Obito-like quote where he says and explains the world that he is trying to create. And I really like the sound of this in my personal opinion. Continuing on with the theory, he says, from that moment, as the survival of the world and Shibai is threatened, Shibai will have no choice but to grant Boruto his dojutsu, the Jougan, to match Kawaki's destructive power. The reason Shibai isn't directly stopping Kawaki from dethroning him is because he is in a different dimension, just like Fudo Mayo, making him unable to do so. When creating everything, he knew this would happen thanks to his prescience ability, so he gave the Jougan to Boruto to prevent the destruction entirely. So I like this. I really like this because currently there is really no plot holes and there's not a lot of defects when it comes to his explanation. Is this the route that the story goes necessarily? It's another story. But is what he is saying illogical and doesn't make sense? I would say it's the contrary. I say a lot of what he is saying makes sense, as Shibai wouldn't want his world to be destroyed. However, it would take two things for him to do so and prevent Kawaki's destruction from taking place. Either he is to come back to this dimension, which I don't know is really possible, or he is to lend his power towards somebody who is going to go against Kawaki, who is going to be strong enough to go against Kawaki. And in this instance, we're going to see a pretty interesting dynamic between Kawaki and Boruto, where Kawaki was the one who almost took that power from Shibai, in the sense that Shibai didn't give him that power and Amado was the one who implanted it in his body, but we have Boruto who was gifted it and essentially blessed by the god, a divine intervention just like Jura quoted in the past. So with that divine intervention, he ends up getting the Jougan, which allows him to go toe to toe with the evil who robbed Shibai of his power. This is what we could have, a rather interesting dynamic presented to us through this theory being true between Boruto and Kawaki. The theory continues, saying, now we know what Toneri meant when he said that the Jougan is the star of hope against the destruction that will eventually come to pass. Kawaki will try to destroy planets to dethrone Shibai, while Boruto will stand against him. I know the first thing a lot of people are going to say is that Toneri's words were not necessarily talking about the destruction that would follow because of Momoshiki and Kinshiki's arrival. People would believe that that was what he was referring to. However, I doubt that it is the case, because he said that the Jougan would be what would go against that destruction. And the Jougan wasn't necessarily what allowed Boruto to defeat Momoshiki, and thus this is not what he is talking about. There's even more evidence to prove this point due to the fact that Toneri said that Boruto wouldn't use the Jougan in a while, and Boruto basically unlocked it prematurely. Thus it means that when Boruto is supposed to use the Jougan is when he will go against this destruction, which is Kawaki. Kawaki hasn't fully gotten to the point where he has now become the apostle of destruction. However, when he does, Shibai will essentially grant him this Jougan ability and he will awaken it. Continuing on with the theory, it says since Kawaki will, of course, start by destroying their own planet, instead of killing Boruto, he would try and seal him in his dimension to later use him as a sacrifice for the Ten Tails to produce a chakra fruit. And this is essentially where the theory ends. And this is a rather interesting theory. And the whole problem, I would say, with the theory would be the creation of a chakra fruit and Kawaki essentially eating a chakra fruit. As I know that some people might say that why would Kawaki want to destroy the world that Naruto had worked so hard to protect and create peace for. However, we have already seen that everything that Naruto values is not necessarily what Kawaki values too. Naruto obviously valued the life of Boruto, but we know what happened next. Because Boruto's life ended up becoming a threat to Naruto's, he took Boruto out no problem. So in this case, in my opinion, I still see it being possible that Kawaki ends up destroying this world and creating a chakra fruit, or seeing that as a valuable option. And if a chakra fruit is planted, he will definitely be in the race of the people to end up consuming it. However, one thing that I would also want to add is if the village is destroyed first, as we literally see it being the case in the time skip scene, then Kawaki would see that, oh, the village is already destroyed, this world is already doomed, let me destroy it, let me obtain this chakra fruit, and then I will create a better world in which I am capable of letting Naruto live in a safe manner. We already seen people like Momoshiki create parallel worlds to the one that Kaguya has. It has been stated multiple times, so I don't think it's a power issue. It is definitely something that is possible. But one thing I really want to repeat is that the person who ends up obtaining this chakra fruit is going to be ultra powerful. Not only due to the fact that we have characters that have chakra, shinobis like Hashirama, Madara, Minato, all these various strong shinobis that have died in this planet, already making its fruits likely to be exceptional, but we have the likes of Kaguya, we have the likes of Ishiki, we have plenty of people who have died and were connected to this planet, which would ultimately lead the likelihood of this chakra fruit being one that could maybe even turn somebody into a god entirely, being a genuine possibility. However, if it doesn't, it will turn that person who ends up obtaining this chakra fruit into a person who is ultra strong. So the person who ends up eating the chakra fruit connected to this planet will ultimately become a creature that is so strong where he can deal with any sort of threat on this planet. And when it comes to Boruto being sealed, there are multiple different ways that we could obtain a sacrifice. It could be Boruto, as the theory suggests. It could potentially be Akubi, which would be rather interesting to take place. Or maybe he goes down a Jougan type approach, where he gives his karma to somebody else and is revived through that person, and his body is given as fodder to create a chakra fruit. These are the various possibilities that we can definitely see take place. And to me, this will ultimately take place after the fact that the Senju are clearly dealt with, as it clearly requires the revival of Akubi to be done, and other factors to be included, due to the fact that we have a change in Kawaki's philosophy, the way Kawaki seems to operate. That change to me will happen after the Senju are defeated ultimately, and other threats, maybe non-Otsutsuki or potentially Otsutsuki, do end up appearing, leading to Kawaki having this change that it is not just the Otsutsukis that are the problem, it is this world itself that creates such beings. And maybe this occurs then after Kawaki ends up seeing the Otsutsukis, after we have this true Otsutsuki arc where we learn about the past of the Otsutsukis and everything that has occurred leading to the Otsutsukis acting in the way they do. If the Otsutsuki have a sad story, or a story where they are the ones being used in such a manner, Kawaki would then see that, okay, it really just wasn't the Otsutsuki. This entire life, this entire world itself has created these threats that end up acting evil, like the Otsutsuki or like other creatures that Kawaki ends up confronting in the future, causing him to want to destroy this world entirely because he deems it to be unfit to ever create any sort of lasting peace. Thus, he will create his own perfect world to allow characters like Naruto to live. Another argument that I've seen for the fact that potentially Boruto would end up living and Kawaki is not trying to use him as fodder is the fact that Kawaki may have sealed Boruto in this alternate dimension instead of killing Boruto, due to the fact of everything that he has done with omnipotence and him having a change of heart in the sense that, yes, I technically don't really deserve to kill you due to everything that I have already done. Thus, let me put you to sleep till the end of life, since you are still a threat to the planet and people that I care about. So since I don't have the right to kill you, I will put you to sleep and then take all of those people that he seals to protect back into the world that he deems as perfect. So definitely let me know your thoughts on this theory, as there is clearly a race at the moment on the person who will be able to obtain this chakra fruits, as a person who does will evolve into a far greater being that we have ever seen in this series so far. Will it be Code? Will it be Momoshiki? Will it be Kawaki? I think it could potentially even be Jira, and to find out why, make sure to watch this video right here, as I break down completely how Jira is leading up to him eating the chakra fruit and evolving himself.